All right. Hello, scholars in the advance. I'm so excited to join you today for us to review perfecting communications through presentations. My name is LaToya Dawkins, and I will be facilitating our session for this evening. So I'm really happy to be with you all. So it's going to be very interactive. We're going to talk through this. As you know, this is your last class before your end of course assessment, which is next Tuesday. Really excited to go over this information. Please feel free to, use the raise hand feature if you have any questions or if there's anything you need me to go over, I'd be happy to do so. Everybody feeling good? Give me a thumbs up. Thanksgiving is on the way. All right. So here's our proprietary statement, which basically states that this is, our information is private and confidential and used for the purpose of this class. So we share that, and Professor Rosie shared that last night as well. All right, just to share a little bit about myself, during the day, I do work for Rutgers University. I've been with them now for a little bit over 2 years. It's gone by really fast. And I am a senior program administrative supervisor, which is the business title, but basically, I'm a CQI supervisor, which stands for continuous quality improvement. And so I support about a dozen trainers that we have as they're delivering trainings through coaching and mentoring. I do observations. I also do QA reviews, so quality assurance reviews for all of our learning products. We develop our own proprietary material for training. And then I also review survey participant feedback. And that goes into continuous quality improvement. I provide that feedback to the rest of the team at Grow NJ Kids Training Services, and I support the director and the other supervisor with that feedback. As you know, I'm also a S.O.A.R board member. I am one of the directors of curriculum and instruction, and I am the co-director alongside Professor JR, which is my husband of 14 years. I co-direct alongside him for this series, Business and Entrepreneurship. So again, I am a wife. I am a mom of two boys. You can see my two little boys there. That was last Christmas, so we need an updated Christmas picture. But in the middle right next to me is Jaden, and right next to my husband is Trey. They are 5 and 8 years old. Kindergarten and third grade. I have a bachelor's in early childhood. Early childhood is my heart. I've been in early childhood probably since the moment I graduated college. And I have a master's in curriculum and instruction, which helps supports the current role that I'm in, working with curriculum. I consider myself an educator, a training facilitator. I also facilitate for a trauma-informed curriculum called Connections Matter. I partner with programs over the state of New Jersey and voluntarily deliver that as one of my ways of giving back to the community, in addition to S.O.A.R, of course. I am a youth leader at my church, a Sunday school teacher. I sing on the praise and worship team alongside Professor Rosie. I don't know if you knew that. And Chastity, Miss Chastity, who's also on the board. And our organist is Minister Leon, Leon McCamery, which is Miss Rosie's husband. And then I also love to bake. I actually just finished making 2 pumpkin breads to bring to my mother-in-law's house. I love to read. I read all types of books. I love interior decorating. I like to do word search puzzles, Wordle. I don't know if you ever heard of that. But I would love to learn a little bit more about you all. As you know, I've been in the S.O.A.R classes, but just put something in the chat, something fun about yourself that maybe no one knows. I would love to know. I'll give you guys a second to do that. And I'll stop sharing for a little bit so we can see each other. think Anaya dropped. Hopefully she'll be back. Or you can come off mute. We're a really small group if you just want to share something fun about yourself. A Sanrio collector in love with cute items.
Yeah, basically it's like Hello Kitty. Like I don't know if you've heard of it, but
Mm-hmm.
that's the actual like company, Sanrio, that's the actual company. So I'm in love with everything inside within that company. And I began to like buy a lot of those items. And some people might not know of that about me because a lot of people on the darker side and they wouldn't think I like cute things. So I would say that.
Okay. I don't know if I froze or if someone else froze, but you cut out, but I heard the end of what you said. You said you think people think you like dark things. They wouldn't think you like cute things, right? Okay. So I did catch that. All right. And Maggie, you said you do almost everything at night. What's almost everything? Like homework and stuff?
Yes, like everything. Like for homework, exercising, I always do it at night.
Wow, you're a night owl. Now, do you get up early or is it hard for you to get up in the morning?
I struggle to get up early.
Got it. Got it. Hi, Gian. Welcome. We were just putting in the chat something fun about ourselves that we may not have shared or no one may know yet. So if you want to add something to the chat box, please feel free. All right, so I'm going to just share my screen. I wanted to do what I call, or what is called, a Mentimeter. So if you have another device with you, similar to how Miss Rosie did it yesterday, you basically will, and let me put the invitation in the chat box. Oh, you like playing video games at night? Okay. Professor J may join you with that on his PS5. All right. So the code, I also put the code in the chat box. So you just click on that code and it'll take you to the Mentimeter website. I also have a QR code if that's easier. Let me know if that's easier for me to share. But if you click on that link, it'll take you to Mentimeter and it just says, what are you looking forward to this Thanksgiving? What are you looking forward to? Definitely appreciate you all being here the day before a holiday. So, what are you looking forward to? So, you click on the link and then you just answer in Mentimeter. We're going to be using Mentimeter a little bit later. So, this is also just a way to, kind of get some practice of using the system. Hi, Anaya. Welcome back. Anaya, we're all going to Mentimeter, which is on the screen. And then let me put the link in the chat box again. So you could just click on the link in the chat box and it'll take you to Mentimeter and then you just submit your answer and I should see it come up on the screen.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Is everyone in Mentimeter? Anybody having any challenges? Oh, I got one response. Looking forward to the food, especially since my family is making my favorite things. Awesome. We'll give it about one more minute and then we'll move on. Mac and cheese and games. Okay, I just finished making mac and cheese too. Spending time with family, aunts and cousins. I also look forward to the food that my mom is going to cook. Oh, that's nice. Saying what you're thankful for at dinner. This Thanksgiving, like every year, my family will be staying home and we'll have dinner together as a family. I'm looking forward to that. Awesome. Very nice. Thank you all for participating in that. All right, so I'm going to go back to sharing the presentation and we'll just hop right in for tonight. All right, so I did Mentimeter. All right, so our objectives for our class tonight, Perfecting Communications Through Presentations, we're going to apply appropriate communication skills across settings, purposes, and audiences. We're going to demonstrate effective use of technology and other platforms to present information. We're going to use body language and eye contact to convey a particular message. We're going to identify how to use language effectively to promote your brand, your product or service, and we're going to articulate information in a concise and meaningful manner. All right, so I want to ask you before we move into communication, what is communication? How would you define communication? Anyone want to take a stab at it?
Clearly communicating a message.
Clearly communicating a message. Okay. Anyone else? What is communication?
Exchange of words.
Exchange of words. Yes, I think that is part of communication. I'll take one more.
Expressing information through gestures or verbally.
Nice. Expressing information through gestures or verbally. Awesome. Great answers. All right, so communication is the act of sharing information from one person to another or a group of people. That information could be shared in many different ways. I liked Brianna's answer about gestures. Maggie hit it with words. And I believe Anaya said the same thing in terms of like messages, right? So it's communication is the act of sharing information from one person to another or a group of people. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So what I'm going to show you first here, has anyone ever seen The Office? Are you familiar with The Office? Okay, Brianna's saying yes. Maggie's saying, I see an X. Is that yes or no? No? Maybe that's no. What about Gian? Have you ever heard of The Office? He's saying yes. What about you, Anaya?
I heard of it. I just never watched it.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to show you this clip and then we'll talk a little bit about it after. I might not show you the whole clip, but try to show you as much as I can.
Car starting. All right, Dwight Schrute, everyone. Good luck. That is a tough crowd. Blood alone moves the wheels of history. Have you ever asked yourselves in an hour of meditation, which everyone finds during the day, how long we have been striving for greatness? Not only the years we've been at war, the war of work, but from the moment, as a child, when we realized that the world could be conquered. It has been a lifetime struggle, a never-ending fight, I say to you, and you will understand that it is a privilege to fight. We are warriors! Salesmen of northeastern Pennsylvania, I ask you, once more rise and be worthy of this historical hour.
All right, so I'll pause it there. So let me know your thoughts. What do you think about that presentation? What you thinking?
In that video, that guy was promoting his business, I think.
Yes. He was at, so a little background about the office. It's a paper company. So they were at their like um conference, their regional conference, and I guess he was like the one of the top salesmen. So they asked him to give words as he was accepting his award. And so to be funny, someone in the office said to, kind of prank him, hey, these are the tips you need to be a good presenter. And so he went up there and presented in that way. So I kind of just gave you guys a little spoiler. Gave the answer. But how did you feel just listening to him? People were clapping. Did you feel like it deserved a clap? Did you feel motivated? I saw some of your faces were like, what is happening? Like you seem confused. So what came up for you watching that video?
For me, it was like super loud. He always kept banging, so that had my attention.
Okay, body language was loud. Okay. Anyone else?
I would definitely agree that his gestures was like very, very big and grand. And
Hmm.
like the banging on the table, making sounds, like drawing the audience in.
Yeah. 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 I mean, he definitely was entertaining, right? He definitely made you look his way. So there was definitely that. So let me go back to sharing. All right. So the next thing we're going to talk about, and also just kind of in mind of what we just viewed, what would you say is this is a Venn diagram, right? So on the left, we're going to consider this section here what's appropriate. On the right, we'll consider what's inappropriate. And then in the middle, we'll put maybe how things could go one way or the other, right? Maybe depending on your audience, depending on the message you're trying to get across. So let's start with appropriate on this side. What would you say is appropriate communication? You could just come off mute because I'm going to type in here.
Being super
Maintaining,
loud so
oh,
everyone could hear you.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Let me, Megan, go ahead, and then whoever was talking can go next.
Being loud enough so everyone could hear you.
Okay. It came out really large for me, so let me see if I can. Okay, so loud enough to be heard. Okay, anyone else for appropriate? I think someone else had an answer.
yeah, I was gonna say keep constant, maintain eye contact with the audience.
Oh, that's a good one. Maintain eye contact. All right, let's try to get one more for oop, I don't know if I'll be able to move that over. All right, well, make a mental note. Maintain eye contact is supposed to be in the appropriate. Anyone else for appropriate? I'll take one more answer.
To to use the right hand gestures.
Yes. Use the right hand gestures. Okay. All right, and then let's look at inappropriate. What would be inappropriate, you think, for a presentation? Inappropriate communication during a presentation.
Using curse words.
Yes, profanity, absolutely. Anything else come to mind?
Fidgeting.
Say that again.
Fidgeting, like moving your hands around a lot, hands in your pockets and stuff like that.
Okay, how do you feel about me calling that like bad posture? Is that okay? Or bad body language? Which one would you prefer?
Body language. I was saying fidgeting.
Oh, fidgeting. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you say that. So yeah, that's great. All right, anyone else? We'll take one more for inappropriate.
Use of
Not maintaining.
I was gonna say use of slang words.
Oh, yes, slang. And Miss Rosie talked about that yesterday, right? Like cliches and jargon, stuff like that. Gian, what were you gonna say?
Not maintaining eye contact.
Okay, yes, not maintaining eye contact. See if I could fit that all in. Eye contact. All right, now what would you say might fall in the middle? That it might be appropriate, might be slightly inappropriate, depending on maybe your audience or something like that. What would you say would be in the middle?
Tone of voice.
Tone of voice, yeah. Like maybe if Dwight, that's the man's name in the video, maybe if he was somewhere else, that would have been appropriate. So say tone of voice. Might be a little hard to see there. There we go. What else would you say? We'll take one more. Something that could fall right in the middle. Okay. Well, I was thinking about what Maggie has said earlier about being loud, depending on the setting and the audience, maybe being loud may be appropriate, right? If you're doing a very eccentric presentation, something that requires a lot of energy, you're at a football game, as opposed to maybe you're at story time with kindergartners, right? So there might be opportunities where being loud may be appropriate. So all right, thanks so much for doing that with me. Let me just clear our drawings here. Hopefully I can do that. Stop sharing and reshare, see what happens. All right. So why are communication skills important? So they are essential to the workplace. Communication is the starting point not only for relationships with colleagues, but also in establishing work goals and expectations. A simple misunderstanding can be the reason why you miss a deadline or omit an important task from a shared project. It's also a high demand skill. Strong verbal and written communication skills are always in demand in the workplace, and a good communicator is easier to work with, a valuable team member, and less likely to drop the ball on big projects. And then for career aspects or business prospects, being able to participate with skill in all forms of communication, which we're going to go over in a bit, right? We're going to look at 4 forms of communication, is important to getting a job and advancing in your career. All right, so here are the 4 types of communication and ways that we use them. So we have verbal. So use a strong, confident speaking voice, use active listening, which is also a part of good communication. Avoid filler words. We'll go over what those are. Avoid industry jargon when appropriate. So we have nonverbal, noticing how your emotions feel physically. Be intentional about your nonverbal communication. We also have here your nonverbal communications. You want to mimic those that communicate well, and I'll give you an example of that later on in the session tonight. And then visual, ask others before including any visuals. Consider your audience. Only use visuals if they add value and make them clear and easy to understand, which is very important when you're doing a visual presentation. And then written, you want to strive for simplicity. Don't rely on tone alone to communicate your message. Take time to review your written communication, similar to like what Miss Rosie went over yesterday in terms of grammatical errors. You want to make sure that you review your written communication and you keep a file of writing you find effective and enjoyable so you can use it as a reference. So the next thing I wanted to do, I wanted to go back into Mentimeter, and you should already have it up and available. And I just want to ask you if you could put these types of communication in order from most challenging to least challenging. And then we could look at it together as a group, how you feel about it. So you're going to go to menti.com and you're going to use the code 738-48048. I can also put the link in the chat box again. It's the same link as before. You can also use that link to click in and then, yeah, go ahead and rank the 4 communications from challenging to least challenging, most challenging to least challenging. All right, we're getting some movement in there. Okay, so far, based on one person, nonverbal is coming in first as the most challenging. Okay. Oh, got more mute. Okay, so now visual. Give it one more minute. Oh, it's all very different from the first response. So verbal communication is first, nonverbal is second, visual is third, and written is last. All right. So thank you for doing that. I think that's important for us to know as a group what we may find challenging. Oh, the 4th person just got in there. So we're back at visual. Okay, so visual, verbal, nonverbal, and written. Okay, that's interesting. I don't think I've ever seen those results um, in this class. Usually I think verbal communication wins, so very nice. That's definitely good to know. So it seems like you all feel confident in written, maybe after the class yesterday too. So that's good to know. All right, so let me go back. I'm gonna go back to our presentation. Thank you for doing that. Okay, so when thinking about communication, specifically verbal communication, these are 4 questions you want to ask yourself. How do I sound? What does my body language say about me? Where am I looking? And can I read the room? Those are some of the questions you want to keep in mind. All right, so what I want you to do is, this is a best practice when it comes to verbal communication, is record yourself. So I don't know if you have another device or something like that, but I want you to take 1 minute. You're gonna 30 seconds, you're gonna record yourself and take 30 seconds to look at the recording of yourself. And you're gonna say, just talk freely about a special trip or activity you want to do this winter. And then when we come back 1 minute later, I want you to tell me how it felt to record yourself. All right. So let me stop sharing. You can go ahead and turn off your camera, record yourself for 30 seconds, look at it for 30 seconds, and then we'll talk about it when you come back. All right. Want to ask, how did that feel to record yourself? Did you gain any insight, something you're self-aware about?
I look away a lot.
You look away a lot. Yeah, that's really good to know. Anyone else want to share something they picked up on that maybe they were not aware of before recording themselves? All right, well, recording yourself can be very challenging. I, for one, do not like to see myself recorded and look back at it, but it is helpful because if you are preparing for a presentation, that's one of the ways that you can prepare. I would also say, even for an interview, if you want to think about those anticipated questions that you may be asked, it's very good to record yourself, ensure that you're exuding confidence, that you're maintaining eye contact, that you're using appropriate body language, you're not being fidgety or anything like that. There's so many things that are picked up on in the interview process. I do a lot of interviews at my job, especially for hiring trainers or any other roles that I may be asked to serve on an interview panel. And it's pretty interesting what comes up in the interview panel. I've had people in the interview panel said she played with her hair the whole time. I didn't like that. Or she was wearing a sweatshirt. I didn't like that. Or she didn't maintain eye contact, right? There's all these little things. So it's similar to what Miss Rosie was saying yesterday about those 7 seconds. Someone's looking at your resume that they can kind of pick up things about you. It's similar to how you present yourself. It's a very quick, swift caption of you when you're like in an interview or even if you're doing a presentation for your business. So doing the recording is definitely a good practice to be more self-aware of how you are when you're presenting or going for an interview, or just how you present yourself in everyday life, to be honest. All right, so verbal communication is the use of language to transfer information through speaking. This can also be done through sign language, right? It is one of the most common types of communication, often used during presentations, video conferences, and phone calls, meetings, one-on-one conversations. And it is important because it is efficient. It can be helpful to support verbal communication with both non-verbal and written communication. So similar to the conversation yesterday with the resume, once you hand your resume, right? You hand in your resume, they like it, great resume. Now you're in person. They're seeing you. You're presenting yourself. So now they have your resume in front of them. They have your written communication. They have your verbal communication because now they hear you answering the questions. And they also have your nonverbal communication because they're picking up on your body language. So there's multiple things that shines through. Here are a few steps you can take to develop your verbal communication skills. You want to use a strong, confident speaking voice, especially when presenting information to a few or a group of people. Be sure to use a strong voice so everyone can easily hear you. Maggie brought that up earlier when we were talking about appropriate communication. Be confident when speaking so that your ideas are clear and easy for others to understand. You want to use active listening skills. This may not come up so much with a presentation, but if you're doing business, so for Gion's trucking company, right? Listening to your customers, hearing their feedback, any type of business, right? It involves listening to customers and hearing feedback. So it is a huge part of verbal communication. Avoid filler words. These filler words are tempting to use, especially when you're trying to find your thoughts. I'm sure you'll hear me say some type of filler word even tonight as I'm collecting my thoughts. It is important to try to breathe when you feel those filler words come up. And so those are like, so, yeah. It feels natural when completing a sentence, but like I said, pausing and breathing is better to do than to use a filler word. Using filler words will distract your audience and take away from your overall message. So try presenting to a trusted friend or colleague who can call attention to when you use filler words. And like I said, the biggest tip is to take a breath. All right, moving full speed ahead, let's look at nonverbal communication.
Did you ever hear anyone tell you that 90% of communication is nonverbal? Now, as a broadcaster, you will be communicating verbally most of the time, but once you are on TV or on camera, you will have to rely on your body language or your facial expressions to deliver the emotion of your message. If you're delivering a serious story, you probably don't want to be smiling, would you? If you're delivering a happy story, you probably won't want to be too serious either. There are all sorts of ways to practice this, but looking in a mirror can be a big help. Can you raise one eyebrow? It's still one skill I have to work on myself. But by changing your facial expression, you can set the tone for your story without ever saying a word. Another habit you should try to break is not to move your shoulders when you talk or report on camera. Now, you can allow your head to move naturally, as if you are talking to your best friend. If you want to make sure your audience gets your message, don't be afraid to lean forward and look right down the center of that camera lens. Remember, eye contact is how you maintain your connection to your audience. Send me some examples of your happy face, sad face, confused, amazed, befuddled, excited, surprised. And if you are delivering a negative message like, there's no school today, you can always shake your head. There's no school today. Or when it's positive, subtle nods work well too. These are just a few tricks to the trade that can help you become a better communicator on camera and in real life. Good luck.
All right. So, in addition to what that video shared, nonverbal communication is the use of body language, right? They said that in a video as well. So, it's gestures, facial expressions to convey information to others. So, I love the example that he gave. If you're talking about something exciting, you want it to show up on your face. If you're talking about something that's sad, you also want that to show up on your face. I'm in a lot of Zoom calls all day. And one of the things that I noticed, and this was pointed out to me, that if someone is in a Zoom call and they're like this, how do I look right now? What is my
Bored,
body
not
language saying?
interested.
Bored, not interested. Yep. How do I look if I sit like this?
More attentive, I guess.
More attentive. Isn't that amazing with body language? I moved my hand from my face to my neck. So that goes to show you how just a small tweak in how you communicate through your body can make such a huge difference in the message that your body is conveying to others. All right. So notice how your emotions feel physically throughout the day as you experience a range of emotions. Try to see where the emotion is showing up in your body. If you're feeling anxious, you might notice that your stomach feels tight, and you want to develop this self-awareness around how your emotions affect your body and give you a greater mastery over your external presentation. The more you know about yourself, the better you're able to master the messages you convey through your body language. Be intentional about your nonverbal communication. Make an effort to display positive body language when you feel alert, open, and positive about your surroundings. You can also use your body language to support nonverbal communication if you feel confused or anxious about information, like a furrowed brow. I've been in several calls where if someone does this, they're like, oh, do you not know what I mean? Do I need to clarify anything? Right? So a brow can also communicate a lot. And then you want to also mimic nonverbal communication that you find effective. So just like I showed you, I don't sit in calls like this. If I feel like I need to rest my head a little bit, I will sit like this. I find that that message that I'm sending to whoever I'm in a meeting with is a better message than me having my hand on my face. So you want to mimic verbal, nonverbal communication that also makes sense to you, right? You want to practice it and, just kind of try it out and see how it feels. All right. Let's look at visual communication. So these are some brands, and I'm sure you're very familiar with them. These are also their mission statements. So we have, I'll read the first one is Apple. I know it's a little small. So it says to challenge the status quo to think differently. Coca-Cola to refresh the world and inspire moments of optimism and happiness. But let me know, looking at their logos, looking at their mission statements, what does their logo communicate to you? Like looking at Tesla, what does Tesla's logo communicate to you?
Very technical and futuristic, I guess.
Yes, I love that word, futuristic. Absolutely. What about Disney? What does Disney logo say to you?
Kid friendly.
Kid friendly. Okay. Yeah, and their mission statement says to create happiness for people of all ages everywhere. So yeah, I think anyone can enjoy anything that's kid friendly. I like a Disney movie every now and then. What about Starbucks? What's Starbucks logo say to you? Their mission statement says to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person and one cup at a time. Do you get that from their logo? Inspiration?
I don't get
Brianna's
any.
saying no. No. Yeah. It's interesting. They actually have changed. I know Professor JR did a little he shared some dialogue about the Nike logo and how it changed a few times. Starbucks logo actually recently learned that it changed a few times because this woman here actually, I forget what they're called, but they represent some kind of Greek mythology. And the way that the logo used to be looked very heavy on the Greek mythology, and it made people feel uncomfortable. So they had to tweak it so it looked more friendly and inviting. But I agree. I don't get inspiration from Starbucks. I used to be a huge Starbucks fan. But yeah, I don't get inspiration from that. But this But Starbucks brand is so powerful. If you notice, next time you see anything with this logo on it, notice how they don't even have to put Starbucks on the cup because just seeing this logo, you already know what it is. That's how powerful logos are, right? You think about Nike, you don't need it to say Nike to know it's a Nike. You just know it by the logo. So definitely think about that when you're thinking about your business. Think about your mission statement, as I know you did in the fundamentals, and continue to develop it. Sometimes people visit their mission statements multiple times before they nail it, and that's totally fine. And then you want to make sure your logo and your mission statement obviously match each other because it's going to be a part of your visual communication, what you're communicating to your audience about your business. All right, let's look at written brand language. So, brand language is the body of words, phrases, and terms that an organization uses to describe its purpose or reference to its products. Brand language is used in marketing to help consumers connect specific words or ideas to specific companies or products. When developing a brand language, word choice and tone are the two fundamental components. And word choice is a vocabulary that is used in marketing or advertising, while tone refers to the attitude of the advertisement. So we talked about that even with verbal communication, the tone in the message, right? So tone is not limited to language. It can also be incorporated through visual elements as well as delivery. So let's look at simple, right? So this example, just do it. So we know who that is, right? You guys can tell me what company is this?
Nike.
Nike. Yes, just do it. So it's simple, it's 3 words. That's brand language. Simple, 3 words. You're in good hands, right? We have Apple phone, pad, tunes, not really brand language, but in a way brand language, just not as the same as just do it, right? That's kind of like their logo, their I want to say lingo. All right, so we have emotional, the brand language that creates strong impact by tapping into an appropriate range of experience-based emotions. So I was thinking about this last one, be all that you can be. Do you know what language that's from? Be all that you can be? That's the Army. Be all that you can be. So I guess that may invoke some inspiration, right? To, be all that you can be. All that you can be is here in the Army serving your country. So I definitely understand that. There's also aspirational, which is just do it again, which inspires like material success. That's what aspirational means. We have unusual. So these are distinct words that connect to the brand. So for example, can you go to Starbucks and ask for a small? No, what do you have to ask for? Anyone know? Let's see.
A cup.
Not a cup. They have their specific brand language. So to them, a small is I don't want to say it if anyone knows it.
Is it like a tall?
It's a tall. Yes. It's a tall. Then their medium is a grande. And then their large is a venti, right? So if you go to Starbucks and say, "Can I get a large coffee?" They're going to go, "You mean a venti?" Right? Because they have their own brand language. It's very, very interesting. So that's their classifier. Then we have connectable brand language. So that's McDonald's has McRib, McNugget. I think the only thing that maybe they don't call Mick is their Big Mac, which is kind of funny. And then we have Apple, right? Kind of already mentioned this. They have everything's I, right? iTunes. Um, I had an iPod. I know they don't exist anymore. I have an iPhone. I have an iPad, right? So that's connectable language. Then there's open language, right? Brand language that brings depth to the brand because it can mean multiple things or apply in a variety of situations. So if I say like a good neighbor, what are you gonna say?
State Farm is there.
State Farm is there. You automatically know, right? You automatically know. And then there's twistable language like mayhem, which can mean more than one thing. All right, so we got through quite a bit. We have a little bit more to go, but I think this will be a good time to take our 10-minute break. So go ahead and come back at 7:34. Enjoy your 10-minute break.
If a person turns and repents, God says he can repent of the evil that he thought to do unto them. Have mercy upon me, O God, according to your loving kindnesses, and according to the multitude of your tender mercies, blot out all my sins. Blot out all my sins.
Don't know how many chances already gave me strength to fight my battles. The victory's mine, and I can't deny. Still I have another fall, and I'm still breathing. There's a chance I can get this right. I'm still breathing. Let me live through another night. Can't stay down, gotta get back up. Fill my cup, yeah, until it overflows. To you I bow. You had every right to take me out. I'm still breathing. I'm still breathing. I'm still breathing. I'm so sorry for yesterday. Oh, you had every right.
The more I tried to do right, evil was present with me, and it wouldn't let me go. He said it wouldn't leave. No matter how much I tried, sin was there, bringing me down into the dungeon and the abyss of despair and hopelessness. And he said, who shall deliver me from the body of this death? He had to be delivered, and God is the one who delivers.
Every now and then try to comprehend why you love me so. Where do I begin? Time and time again, you forgive me. I find it amazing that I am not forsaken. You won't let me go. I owe you, and I'm forever grateful. I can never reach your true wonderful. There's one thing I need to know. Does anybody love him? God do, yeah. 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 Does anybody? Simply you're amazing. I can't help but praise him, and I won't complain. When my troubles come, there's no need to run. You will make a way. Burdens on the table. Lord, I know you're able. Even if you don't, you've already done it enough. So I will proclaim you everywhere that I go. Wonderful. There's one thing you need to know. Does anybody love him? God do, yeah. 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 Does anybody? My blessings had me hellbound, trapped and confused, no way out, no hope of turning around. But then the God from on high looked down and saved my life, kept me from losing my mind here and now. Oh yeah, ooh, how perfect is you, giving her life brand new. Take away my pain. There's one thing I need to know. Does anybody love him like I do? Yeah. 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 Does anybody love him? Does anybody love him? Does anybody love him like I do? Yeah. 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 Does anybody? I dare you to dream with me. Reach beyond the stars and what you see. Will you paint a masterpiece? Tell me when will you start to concede? As we walk out the door, that's when the enemy approach, trying harder than ever to deceive us like before. And then we find ourselves starting at square one, square one. Steady chasing the dream. Yeah. I cannot crease these. Revenue streams. Yeah. Already. Promise I can live on. Oh, man, let's get it. Everybody wanna reach for the stars, but they don't know right. Steady hooking on the horn outside, but fear is trapped inside. What's the point in being buried with a dream? Can anyone tell me what it means? And how's that glorified by lazy? Wasting time. 'Cause soon as we walk out the door, that's when the enemy approach, trying harder than ever to deceive us like before. And then we find ourselves starting at square one. Steady chasing the dream. Yeah. I cannot crease these. Revenue streams. Yeah. Already. Promise I can live on. Oh, man, let's get it. Yeah. I feel I'm fighting from the bottom up. Tell myself second place ain't good enough. Prince of the air, always trying to call my bluff. Telling me I need more when I got enough. 'Cause it ain't about shine or grind. Don't let them poison your mind. Ain't nothing wrong with pursuing your dreams. Just keep it all in perspective and stay productive. Something like that. That was fun. Bring it back. Stray away, baby. Never gonna stray away.
Is this the 5 heartbeats?
All right, welcome back, scholars. Hope you enjoyed your break. Hope you got something to drink, something to eat. We are going to jump back in. Yes, welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, so we are going to jump back in, and now we're going to talk about how to start a presentation. So we're going to watch this short video and then jump back into our slides.
It always strikes me how people think about their presentations or how they prepare their presentations. And I'm actually talking about the first words, the first sentences of a presentation. What most people do is they think of a presentation, so automatically you think about a PowerPoint. So you make your slides. You look at your slides and you think about what will I say showing each slide. But my question to you is this. What are your first words? What are the first sentences? Very few people think about that. Just think a minute about the presentations that you have already seen in the past, maybe the presentations that you have done yourself. There is a cliché sentence that most speakers use to introduce their topic. They say something like, good morning, good afternoon, my name is, if they don't know you. And then there is this typical sentence, today I'm going to talk to you about. Now you might say, so what's the problem? The problem with this sentence is that you're actually answering the wrong question. You're answering the what question. What are you going to do? I'm going to talk about. If you think about it, most audiences know what you're going to talk about. Either you are introduced, or there is a program, or there is a meeting, so there is an agenda, so people know what your topic is all about. The most interesting question to answer is the why question. Why are you there to talk about this topic? And even more important, why is it important for the audience to listen to you? So my advice for you is to focus on the why question. Now, how can you do that? I advise people to focus on a story to begin their presentation. Now, if you think about stories, stories begin with a time frame. Just look at fairy tales. They start with once upon a time. I'm not going to suggest that you start your professional presentation with once upon a time, but you can start with a time frame, something like yesterday, 2 weeks ago, last year, 3 months ago. Now, what's the kind of story that you can share then? Use real stories. It has to be something that happened to you. It has to be something that you heard. So you can refer to a conversation you had with a colleague. You can say something like, yesterday I had a conversation with, but then there has to be a reason why you refer to that conversation. And there is this linking sentence that I use in lots of presentations. I tell my story, and then I continue saying, now why do I tell you this? Because my objective or my goal with this presentation is to. So what you can do is be very conscious of the company stories, I might say. It can be something that happened with a customer. It can be an article you read. It can be something that you heard about. It can be a conversation you had. So use these stories to begin your presentation, link them to your goal, and it will be so much more interesting for your audience because it will be crystal clear for them from the very first minute why it is important to them. So next time you prepare your presentation, focus on that why question and tell them a story.
All right. What stuck out to you about that video? Did anything stick out to you or something something it made you think about or something you may have never heard of before?
The way that most people start their presentation, because I feel like I did that before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a very safe way to start a presentation. It's a sure thing, right? You're introducing yourself. Like she said, most people would say, well, what's the problem, right? Because I'm introducing myself, and that's what you do when you meet someone or you go to a new room. So it makes sense why that is the typical go-to. Even still today, I still hear people say, I think about Shark Tank, right? We always compare when we talk about S.O.A.R, we compare some of what you guys do to like a S.O.A.R tank in a little bit. But yeah, they do the exact same thing on Shark Tank. Hi, my name is Brian, and I'm here to talk to you about lotion. I'm here to invest, to ask you to invest in, like, right? They just go, it like that's the typical way to do it. And maybe depending on the setting, it may be an acceptable way to do it, but it's not the best way. And I think that's where we want to get to is how to how to start presentations in the best way is to start the way that she described, right? Telling your story. Instead of sharing your what you're going to talk about, share your why. I think about all the different businesses you guys have talked about. I think about, you know, Brianna's background with her story about her jewelry and where that comes from, right? So imagine the impact if you start off with the why as opposed to the what, right? So there's definitely some value to what she described. All right, so how to start a presentation. You want to focus on a why. It could even be a question, like she said, why did I tell you this, right? You want to tell a story, you want to have an objective, you want to have an overall goal, right? In the start of your message. So those are some key things to kind of start thinking about as you start to prepare your presentation. So like I said, it's not that it's not acceptable to start a presentation by introducing yourself, but you really want to grab the attention of your audience. So engagement is the key. And the best way to do that is to start by telling a story. Get them emotionally connected, right? So that ties into what we were talking about before with your body language. If you're starting out by sharing your company's story and it's sad, communicate that in your body language. Communicate that in your tone, right? In your verbal communication. If it's exciting, yesterday I did this, I did that. And why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because, right? So you just want to make sure that your tone, your body language, your verbal communication connects with the story that you're telling. All right. Any questions about how to start a presentation or anything you need me to clarify? Nope. Okay. All right, so how to end a presentation. So with ending a presentation, we want to make sure that we get rid of cliche endings. So what do I mean by that? Anyone think about what I mean by that? This was actually even some feedback that we gave in the fundamentals about cliche endings.
Thank you for your time. Is that cliche?
Yes, that could be. I don't know if that's just cliche or polite, because even here it says say thank you. Or I was thinking about how some of the presentations ended with I'm done. That's it. I'm done. So, I would see that as a cliche. And then here it says start and end with the same strong statement. I think that's valuable too. I think about even on Shark Tank, they'll say, okay, sharks, do you want to go on this journey with me? Or it sounds cliche, but it usually connects to what they're talking about. So if they're talking about mountain climbing, right? They might end with that. Do you want to climb to the highest heights with me? Something like that. Make a good use of the intonation of your voice. So you want to, we say start strong, finish stronger, right? And of course, say thank you. It's the safest way to close a presentation is to say thank you. Anything else you might think is a best practice to end a presentation or any questions you may have about ending a presentation?
A good one or a bad one?
A good one.
I would say a good one is restating your name and the purpose of your presentation.
Yes, I would say restating the purpose, probably your name, may not be needed. But yeah, I definitely think restating your purpose. Absolutely. And there could be a fun way you can do that. It can be through your mission statement. It can be through your brand language, right? What you want to say about your brand. So yeah, I think that's a good idea. Thank you. Thank you for that, Anaya. All right. Making a good PowerPoint presentation. So, some of you did submit PowerPoints in the fundamentals, so I'm well aware of that. And so I'm just going to go over here some things to be aware of when you're making a good PowerPoint presentation. So, what does your audience already know? You want to make sure that you're using your slides to hone in on the most valuable information. You don't want to take up your slides with information that your audience may already know. What new information can you teach them, right? What are they expecting from your presentation? What's going to be interesting to them? What's going to really grab their attention and what will keep them focused and engaged? So you want to make sure there's certain ways and certain colors and balance. And I work with our L&D team, our learning and development team at Rutgers, and I always go to them and get their expertise on advice about how to balance a good slide, right? You don't want too many words. You also don't want your colors to be mismatched. You don't want what's the word? Overstimulating colors. So I wouldn't recommend your resume being all red, right? I wouldn't recommend that your slides and your presentation be in neon green and a white background or a black background, right? It's going to be a little bit overstimulating. So you want to be mindful of ways to keep your audience engaged and focused. All right, so these are a little small, so I'm going to read these out to you. I apologize for the small, but this is also in the Google Classroom. I uploaded it in the class last year, so it's the same slide, same document. Know your audience. So this is the natural starting point for all successful presentations. The more you understand about your audience, their emotions, their goals, their expectations from your presentation, the more you can connect with them. The issues you raise, the examples you use will ring a bell and provide them with a laser focus and relevancy. Tell a story. So we talked about this already. A story connects with your audience better than cold data in some cases, right? Some cases data is good. 5,000 people lost their lives in an earthquake is a cold data, which again serves its purpose. So I wouldn't eliminate it altogether. But a story about someone named Maria who was suddenly left homeless after um, losing her home in an earthquake may have a bigger impact, especially if you're raising funds or trying to complete a goal to support her family. All right, convey one idea per slide. So you definitely don't want to have too much information on your slide. It will confuse your audience. Chunk your ideas into individual messages. And then you want to keep in mind one message per slide, and your audience will have more time and opportunity to engage with your message. And it also provides them a way to keep them interested, right? Maybe if they want a level of understanding from your presentation, they'll go to your website, right? That's why your website exists. Organizing and chunking information. So remove visual clutter. So that's like a noise to signal ratio. The less noise you have on your slide, the more the signal gets amplified. So perform a noise audit on your business slides to just keep the essential elements that support your core message per slide. Keep it simple. So this is easier said than done, but whenever you're making high stake presentations, there's always a tendency to overload it with information, overshow competence. So it takes a lot of confidence and courage to keep things simple. And remember, you're in the room with your audience. to help them make informed decisions. So speak to their level of knowledge and connect with them. Another thing to remember is this last one, which I always think is funny. It says avoid, well, it's not the last one, but it's the last one here on my screen that I'm looking at right now. But it says avoid death by PowerPoint. So sometimes the best slides are no slides. So what does that mean? That means if technology, if for some reason goes awry, you want to know that you know your presentation. So we talked about that in fundamentals, right? We want to know that you're not giving a presentation and just looking at the words, you want to be aware. So like even right now, if I didn't have my notes in front of me, I would be able to speak to the slides. And I practiced them and done them a couple of times too. All right, so invest in your skills. You want to watch people present. Look at Shark Tank, even if they don't have a strong starting point, right? We said don't in the video said don't start by introducing yourself. But perhaps you want to look at Shark Tank videos and see their confidence, see their good posture, see their eye contact. There's all different things you can pick up by watching other people present. But also think about simplicity. I think about Steve Jobs. He's one of those like TED Talk type communicators. Pick up intelligent use of visuals when you observe other people. Like I said, TED Talks is another good way to do that. And then I anticipate objections, or I would say not so much objections, maybe in the future when you're presenting this in a your business in a more professional, in a future professional setting. But I would also consider questions that may come up through your presentation, and you want to be prepared to answer those questions. And provide a clear call to action. So you want to make sure there's a next step. There's something that the audience has to do to stay engaged with you. So take time to articulate clear and realistic next steps once you finish making your presentation. Do you expect your audience to call for a demo session? Do you want them to place a trial order? Do you want them to go to a specific resource to learn more? So unless you clearly tell your audience what they are to do next, you can expect your presentation to kind of just fall flat, right? You want to put some onus on your audience to further engage with you. So the good thing is with this, you can also collect some data, right, through your presentation. Who does follow up with you, right? That's good data. So you can kind of see if the call to action is really working. And it's a good metric system to see the success of your presentation. All right, so those were the 10 tips to make world-class business presentations. Any questions about anything that I shared? No? All right. I saw Gion's body language. He moved his head from side to side, so he took note of the presentation earlier. All right, so other online presentation platforms. So we have PowerPoint. They also have a live version of that. I shared Mentimeter, so you saw another engaging tool. They also have the account that I was using for Mentimeter is free. I set it up through my Gmail. I think they allow you to make like two presentations on your free account, and then I also have it through my job. So you could definitely think about creative ways to hone in your presentation. You'll have 3 to 5 minutes, so you definitely want to keep that in mind too. There's other platforms like Kahoots, which is another engagement tool similar to Mentimeter. And then, of course, we have all of our different virtual meeting platforms. So you're in Zoom right now. There's Google Meets, which we have through S.O.A.R. We have that through our Google organizations account. There's WebEx, there's Teams, there's Poll Everywhere. There's even Zoom polls. I don't know if you're aware of that, but you can even make a poll in Zoom to get your audience if you're ever presenting virtually. I'm sure you might have used it in your own virtual classes. So there's a lot of different ways, especially if you're presenting virtually, that you can get your audience to engage with you, which is great. All right, so now we're going to watch this video And we're going to see the progression of someone present the first time, and then they're going to get some feedback, and then they're going to present again. So after you watch the video, I would love to discuss it and get some dialogue from you all.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Public Speaking. Today's first presenter is Ranjit, and I would ask everyone to give him their full attention. Chantal, could you dim the lights, please?
The British imposed a lot of unpopular taxes on the American colonists and didn't let them elect representatives to the British government. In retaliation, the Americans started to boycott British goods. In 1773, Americans in Massachusetts dumped a shipload of British tea into Boston Harbor. This became known as the Boston Tea Party. As punishment, the British imposed laws known as the Intolerable Acts, including the Quartering Act, which made Americans let British soldiers live in their homes. Some of the American colonies created a Declaration of Rights and Grievances, which they sent to Britain, but the British just sent soldiers to the colonies to put down any rebellion. This led to the first battles of the Revolution at Lexington and Concord.
Thank you, Ranjit. I know it's very hard to give a presentation in front of the entire class. Now, would anyone like to offer Ranjit constructive feedback about his presentation? Any tips for what he might do differently next time? For example, were you all able to hear what Ranjit was saying?
Not really. He needs to speak louder and face the audience.
Yes. Great suggestion. Anyone else?
He was reading from his paper, so it didn't feel like he was really talking to us, you know?
Exactly. It's important when you're speaking to look up every sentence or two and make eye contact with someone in the audience. Anything else that Ranjit could do to appear more relaxed and feel more confident?
He could smile more.
Yes, smiling makes us feel relaxed. Oh, and make sure your phone is off before you speak next time. I do have one more suggestion. To connect with listeners, it's a great idea to use a personal story or experience as an example. Can you try that next time?
I think so, yes. Next week, my presentation will be about the causes and effects of stress.
We look forward to hearing it.
All right, before we look at next week's presentation, anything else you would add to the constructive feedback that his classmates gave him? Did you agree or disagree with anything that they said?
I agree
Agreed.
with what you could go first.
I think Gian was just saying that he agreed. So you go ahead, Maggie.
Oh, okay. I didn't like how he went straight into the paper without introducing the topic first, and he was just fully interested in his paper, not looking at anyone, and the audience weren't really paying much attention to him, as his tone of voice like showed zero emotion, like he only focused on the paper.
Yeah, I love that. No one said that he didn't have emotion in his voice. So that was really good that you picked up on that, Maggie. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to add? All right, so let's see him next week.
Ranjit is first up again today, and I look forward to his new presentation. Jorge, could you dim the lights, please?
Good morning. Today I'd like to talk about the causes and effects of stress and how to cope with stress. Stress has many causes, including work or school, life events, changes, or unrealistic expectations of yourself. Some effects of stress include headaches, trouble sleeping, depression, or lack of concentration. I know how hard it can be to deal with stress. Last year, I started working after school to save for college, but I didn't have time to do homework and my grades went down. I had trouble sleeping, I only ate junk food, and I stopped hanging out with my friends. Fortunately, I was able to talk with a school counselor to manage my stress. She suggested that I reduce my hours at my job, eat healthy foods, and get some exercise. So I literally started walking home from school and bringing my lunch. I also asked my teachers for extra help. Now, I feel better. It's important to recognize when you're stressed and to ask for help. Thank you.
All right, so before we hear their feedback, what are your thoughts about the next week, him incorporating some of the feedback from the first time?
He did much better than last week. Instead of looking at his paper, he looked straight at his audience and addressed them. He paid attention. Oh, he also talked about his own story and like how he got over it. Not get over it. I meant like how he overcame it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Maggie. Anyone else? Maybe Maggie said all of what you were thinking. Yes. Anaya saying yes. Yeah, so let's hear what his, oh, go ahead, Brianna.
I was gonna say that in his previous presentation, he mostly relied on, I think it's called logos. Yeah, like the logos, ethos, pathos. So logos would, he mostly relied on information, but in this part, with adding the story, it adds the ethos and it adds the pathos part, which is basically showing that you can rely on him more because he had personal experiences with it, and it also ties the emotional aspect of it as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I was thinking about what Maggie said earlier, like this time he had emotion, right? Hello, he had a smile, and a smile can make such a huge difference when you're presenting. It can cause people to trust you, feels more warm and welcoming, more engaging. So, yeah, absolutely. Let's see what his classmates had to say.
Great work, Ranjit. I want you all to reflect on how much stronger today's presentation was. Ranjit looked us in the eyes, he spoke clearly, he smiled at us, and he used a personal anecdote to help us feel more connected to him. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
One of the things that I saw too was that his presentation was behind him. I don't know if you could see, and I was looking at like when he was talking about, let me see if I can get a quick snippet of that.
He smiled at
If
us,
you look at the lack of
and he used a
concentration, depression at the top, so he actually, as he was going through it, he actually had the slides with very simple information and they were changing based on each message. So when we talked about like what causes stress, it had that message on the slide. Then when it talked about like, the different messages like asking for help, it had that on the slide. So he did that as well. I don't know why it looks like I have my hand raised. All right. That's odd. I never raised my hand. Okay, so yeah, so that was good versus not so good presentation. So it's always nice to look at a real life example of that. All right, so here are 7 tips to improve your presentation skills. So record yourself communicating. So we did that exercise in the beginning. Maggie shared that she never realized how she, may look in different places when she's presenting. So whether working on a group project, giving a speech, or simply speaking with others, you want to record a few communications to evaluate opportunities for improvement. Discovering where you can improve is a good first step in establishing a baseline for this skill development. You want to also learn to manage your emotions. So, good communicators build skills that help them control their reactions and react appropriately. Learning how to communicate with others means learning more about yourself and more about your emotional development. So remember, we talked about like what comes up for you when you're anxious, what comes up for you when you're excited, where do you feel like that tenseness in your body. So you want to be aware of that so that way as you're more self-aware of it, you can manage those when you're presenting yourself to other people. Improve your nonverbal communication. So it's important in order to understand what you and other people might be conveying beyond words, right? So we talked about this posture, this posture. So pay attention to someone else's body language and facial expressions. Listen to their tone, what they're saying, what they're doing could be conveying different things. And eye contact is also an important part of nonverbal communication. Doing something as simple as making eye contact while speaking and listening can improve your communication skills. Prioritize soft skill development. So this was something that Miss Rosie addressed yesterday with you. So that's empathy, adaptability, teamwork, open-mindedness. Those things can directly improve your communication skills. When you focus specifically on improving those skills, you'll see a sharp improvement in your overall ability to communicate with your colleagues, your classmates, your friends, your family. Be receptive to feedback. When speaking, pay attention to both verbal and nonverbal feedback. For example, consider if people are nodding their heads in agreement or if they're looking confused, and respond accordingly. Communicate clearly and regularly with both verbal and written communication. It's important to make sure you're staying on topic and giving your audience all the relevant information they need to understand. And this is especially true with technical subjects or complex issues. It's important to communicate regularly with your intended audience. So, for example, sending reminder emails to classmates, or if you're on a committee or you're serving on some type of volunteer work or something like that, you want to make sure that you send reminders for upcoming meetings to ensure your communication is clear. All right. Any questions about 7 tips to improve your presentation skills? No? All right. So here are the types of communication we went over today. So we went over verbal, we went over nonverbal, we went over visual, we went over written. So let me share our results from when we first started. Let me see here. All right, so this is what we had as our most challenging type of communication to our least challenging. So what do you think? Would you reorder this now if you had to put it in a different order, or anyone want to even talk about what order they would put these in? Or maybe where you feel maybe it's not about most challenging, maybe just an area you feel like you need to work on the most. What do you think?
I would say that personally for me, after this meeting, I think I would need to work on nonverbal communication the most because it says like to be still and to maintain eye contact, but when like I have like sometimes I have been diagnosed with social anxiety, so to be able to do that, especially it right here right now, I'm comfortable enough, but in an actual like stage with everybody watching, I don't know if I could do the same things. So having like building a good formation of nonverbal communication would probably help me a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that and being honest and sharing that. And I think that that comes with practice too, because it's just very nerve-wracking to get in front of people and speak. I don't think that ever, I don't know if that ever goes away. I don't know if people who've been doing it, who love the stage, if they ever said like, I've never nervous when I get on the stage. So I think just the comfortability behind it just comes with a lot of practice. Go ahead, Maggie.
For me, I feel like verbal communication will still be the most challenging for me because I stutter a lot, and when I'm like in front of a crowd, my mind gets like super foggy and I can't concentrate on what I want to say. So I feel like that's the most challenging for me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I know that my husband, when he was growing up, Professor JR, he had a very strong stutter. And I know that his mom worked a lot with him on that and, how to formulate his thoughts before speaking and things of that nature. I don't know if he's able to unmute, but I guess I would wonder if he had some tips or word of advice to share with you. I don't know if you can.
Yeah. Yeah, my stuttering was pretty bad to the point where I would get stuck on words and couldn't even get words or letters out at certain points. Um, I guess ultimately it was a combination of taking deep breaths before I start, and practice, and really just trying to keep my mind focused on what I'm trying to communicate and not getting overcome by like worry or fear or stuff like that. But it definitely took practice. I would say it wasn't until maybe college where I started to get better at not stuttering and eventually being pretty comfortable.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor JR. Anyone else want to share what might have come up as an area to focus on in terms of communication after going through the 4 areas? Naya, Gian.
Could you tell me what verbal communication means?
Sure. So verbal communication is what's the language that you're communicating through words. So it'll be what's, or even if someone is a person who is deaf, um, it could be through sign language, but it's sharing information. Is that where you feel like it's the most challenging for you, Gian, verbal communication?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. All right. So, now that we looked at all of this, I wanted to give you all an opportunity to start to, even if just for 5 minutes, start thinking about your presentations, right? So all of you have a business that you're interested in presenting on and focusing on for the end of course assessment. So we're thinking about a few things, right? We're thinking about your verbal communication. What are you going to be presenting on Tuesday? What are you going to be saying? What information are you sharing verbally with us? You're going to start thinking about your nonverbal communication, your eye contact, your posture, your body, your tone, your facial expressions, your movements, your gestures, right? All of those in your nonverbal communication, speaking with confidence. We're going to be thinking about your visual presentation. Are you going to have, what are your slides going to look like, right? platform are you going to use? Are you going to use PowerPoint? Are you going to maybe do a PDF, but have it in like a slide form? There's so many different ways. How are you going to balance your colors? How are you going to make sure that you're conveying one message per slide, right? And then in that, of course, will be your written communications. You want to make sure there's no grammatical errors. You want to make sure that everything is clear and concise. And then in terms of your overall presentation, we talked about a good start, right? A good opening. What story are you telling? You're not necessarily going to focus on your what. You're more so going to focus on your why. You're going to tell your story, and then you'll get to the what, right? You want to grab your audience to engage them, starting with your why, okay? And then for your middle, you want to share some data, some facts, talk about the goals, right? The goals of your presentation, the goals of your business, and then you want to end stronger, right? So what's going to be that wrap up phrase that you're going to say? What's going to be your call to action? What are you going to tell the audience to do next to stay engaged with you, right? So these are some of the tips you want to keep in mind for your presentation on Tuesday. So what I'm going to do, since we're such a small group, is I'm going to put, let me see. I'm gonna put two of you because of the sake of time. I was gonna say all four, but I want to make sure you guys all get a chance to speak. So I'm gonna put you guys in dyads, so in groups of two, and I want you guys to just talk with your fellow peer, your fellow scholar mate about your upcoming presentation, what you're thinking about, how you're planning to open, ask maybe for some tips or anything like that with them. Um, and then we'll come back together in about 5 minutes. So let me set up these breakout rooms. All right, it has some of the board members going in, but I guess Professor JR and Professor Leon, you guys don't have to go in if you're unavailable, but the scholars can definitely go in. And then I said it'll give you guys about 5 minutes. All right, see you guys soon. Oh, let me stop the recording. That was my reminder for that. So I will be reviewing your presentations via the recording, but I will review them nonetheless because I'm very excited to see them. But the rest of the board will be present. Professor JR, which is the co-director, will be here. I know that Professor Rosie will be here, and I'm pretty sure other board members will be here to cheer you on and to see you present. So I'm really excited about that. Any questions about the end of course assessment?
So how many slides should we have in a PowerPoint?
That is a great question. We usually say at minimum 3, because if you think about beginning, middle, end, if you think about it in that way, but you're welcome to have more. Just be mindful that we're looking for 3 to 5 minutes for your presentation. So whatever fits within that time frame. Does that answer your question, Gian?
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Great question. Anyone else had any questions about the presentations? How are you feeling? You're finishing the advanced. As you can see, not everyone makes it through advanced, so you should feel very accomplished making it this far. How are you guys feeling? Thumbs up, thumbs down, in the middle.
I have
Thumbs
one
up.
question.
Yeah.
Proud.
Are we required to do an interview? I mean, not an interview, a like slide presentation?
Yes, it is a part of finishing the advance.
Okay.
Do you have any concerns about doing the slide presentation or anything you want to talk about or need help with?
No, I was just wondering if we had to do like the slides or not.
Yes. Yes, we do want to see the slides. Now, like I said, it could be in other ways. So if you do, I have seen people present using a Word document. It could be a little challenging. It's not as engaging. But even if you do like a PDF, if you have access to PDF or something like that, Google Slides is also really good. I know a lot of schools use Google too, so Google Slides is a nice way to do it. But Anaya, like we said tonight, you want to be clear, concise, simple. You're just sharing one message per slide at minimum 3 slides. So you definitely want to try to keep it as clear and concise and simple as possible while also conveying your message. What we're really looking for is you, how you show up in terms of your verbal communication, your body, your nonverbal communication, and all of that as well. And then of course your resume, right? So that's a part of completing advance. Your resume and then the end of course presentation, which includes the visual aspect of it. I've seen people develop logos at the end of course. I've seen people have their full slogan for their business. So have fun with it. There's all different things that you could do. All right. Well, if that is it with the questions, I am putting the survey for tonight's class in the chat box. It has been an absolute pleasure being able to share this information with you. For just our final moments together, I'll just go over the objectives of what we accomplished tonight. So we learned how to apply appropriate communication skills across settings, purposes, and audiences. We demonstrated effective use of technology and other platforms to present information. We talked about the use of proper body language and eye contact to convey a particular message. We identified how to use language effectively to promote your brand, product, or service. That's when we're talking about that brand language. And then we also learned about articulating information in a concise and meaningful manner. So we have met our objectives for tonight. Then here are some references for you to have, all the videos, and I'll make sure a copy of the references are available in the Google Classroom. But yes, and then Maggie, I'm not sure if you saw Professor JR also put some tips in there based in the chat box based on what you asked earlier. I'm not sure if you're able to see it.
I think I got it. I took a screenshot.
Okay, great. All right, so go ahead and fill out your surveys. Give you a few moments to do that, and then I just want to ask you one more question, and then we'll close out for tonight so you guys can get to enjoy your break.
So I have a question. So
Yes.
if we want to do a logo for a business, how can we do that?
That might be a question for Professor JR. What is the easiest way for them to do a logo? He's done my logo in the past. I don't know if he can chime in, but Gian, there are different platforms you can use. I know that on, I believe even iPhone, you can do like in the notes section, you can draw and like make a mock-up of your logo. I'm trying to think of other things. That's the only one that I'm aware of that I've seen JR use. Canva, yes. Canva is also another one. I'm not sure if you have a subscription to it. I think there is a free account you can use. So yeah, I could try Canva. I think there are some things they allow you to do in Canva. Sure. Great question. All right. The last thing I want to ask you is about the gala. So as you know, it's coming up on the 9th. I know we talked a little bit about it yesterday, so just wanted to remind you, Saturday the 9th, it's coming up. So if you haven't had a chance to spoke to your parents about it, definitely mention it to them, and I'm sure you'll see more communication coming out in the upcoming weeks and several reminders. All right. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure being with you all for the last 2 hours. Looking forward to seeing those presentations. Have a wonderful evening. Bye, Gian. Bye,
Have a good night.
Brianna. Thanks, you too. Bye, Anaya. Have a great Thanksgiving.